And showtime. Ladies and gentlemen, you're just going to have to trust us. We are wearing pants. Welcome to another episode of the ChannelPro 5-Minute Roundup, a look at news, trends, and tips for the SMB channel in 5 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Rich Freeman. I am executive editor of the ChannelPro Network. I am also a co-host on this program. With me this week, as every week, is your other host, Eric Simpson, a business transformation and improvement consultant for MSPs and other IT providers. Eric, I am correct in saying you're wearing pants, aren't you?
I decline to answer that question, Rich. We'll just have to keep our viewers guessing.
And hope the smoke alarm doesn't go off or something like that, and we find out one way or the other. Well, let's dive into our story of the week here, which actually broke just yesterday in relation to when we're recording this here. And interesting acquisition news. And there's obviously lots of acquisition activity in the industry all the time. In this particular case, NetApp, a company very familiar in the storage market, has acquired CloudJumper, a company that many of you will know as being a leader in Azure Workspace as a Service, Microsoft Windows Virtual Desktop, enabling Azure deployments. So why would a storage company look to acquire CloudJumper, a workspace as a service business? Well, it's actually kind of an interesting opportunity for them. So, you know, NetApp for many, many years, like all the big storage vendors, was focused on storage hardware. They could see, like everybody else, the industry is moving in the direction of the cloud. So there's maybe a limited future for storage hardware. They've been moving aggressively in recent years into cloud storage. They have, last year, around May, I believe, they introduced a product called Azure NetApp Files, which is a cloud-based file storage system. It's actually a native Azure service. It's not even some solution that you run on top of Azure. They have similar offerings that work with Google's cloud and Amazon's cloud. So they've been moving in the direction of the cloud. They have cloud backup software as well. They saw an opportunity to take these existing products that they have that run on these major public cloud platforms and combine that with a Windows Virtual Desktop or an Amazon Workspaces kind of offering and create a bundled, as they put it, modern workplace solution. And so they went out, they acquired CloudJumper, and this is exactly what they're going to do. They're going to have a modern workplace bundle that includes a Windows Virtual Desktop or an Amazon or Google Desktop, plus the associated file storage system that runs on the appropriate public cloud, plus backup, and you get all that together and it's integrated and you can pay for it in one price. There are additional services and products that they're going to be layering onto that in the future. They have a roadmap of additional integrations that they're planning to do that they're not talking about in great detail right now, but you can probably take some guesses by looking at their product catalog. So, interesting offer in its own right, and very much in keeping with things that we've heard with distributors, for example, that have been creating these kind of bundled workplace offerings that MSPs and others can sell to their customers. But it's also sort of interesting to me, just a few weeks ago, Eric, we were talking about a very similar product from a company called Zix, an email security company that has a modern workplace that combines Office 365 with a bunch of different security products and backup and so on and so forth. So an email security company, they go out, they acquire AppRiver, a cloud distributor. They become themselves a cloud solution provider, a provider of cloud services that our readers here at ChannelPro can resell. Now you have NetApp, a storage vendor historically, becoming a player in cloud solutions. They have acquired CloudJumper. They now resell Windows Virtual Desktops. Kind of an interesting trend in the industry, and it gives you a sense of how big the opportunity around cloud in general, and maybe Windows Virtual Desktop in particular, is that it's attracting all of these companies to shift their business model just a little bit and get in on this giant opportunity.
Yeah, it certainly is a very strategic play, right? So this is more about the strategy, and it sounds like the early adopters, Zix and NetApp, are playing, got the same memo. Right? They're reading the tea leaves. They're positioning themselves for the next evolution of digital transformation where, and I think you and I have talked about this on a prior episode as well, where it's going to be hardware agnostic, right? Everything is going to be an app, which will need cloud storage. Now we've got, virtual desktop. combined with cloud storage and cloud file sharing. It's strategic because there's unlimited capability to scale that, right? It's device independent. And I think even Satya Nadella from Microsoft said last year that they were going in more of an app-based model moving forward with their Office applications, and dare say with Windows too. So, preparing for that now is positioning NetApp and folks like, Zix and NetApp to be in a very good position. The early adopters, which will then become very, very attractive for, further growth or acquisition in the future.
And, Zix bought At River over a year ago. They've been headed down this road for a while. I'm sure NetApp has been headed on this path for some time as well. And these discussions with CloudJumper, I don't know when they began, but it's probably been a while. And yet, the strategy both those companies and so many other companies are pursuing is that much more relevant and timely now when you have this work from home scenario going on. And as we've discussed before, this is not going away forever. Even when the offices reopen, there's going to be more work from home going on. And lots of companies are discovering, it sure would be nice to have everything up, especially a desktop, say, up in the cloud, running in a secure fashion on any device, wherever and whenever you need it. So, the strategy was a sound one and a good one before the coronavirus, coming into this new year, and it's even more sound and relevant now.
Yeah, I think that, I was having a conversation earlier today with some colleagues, and we were talking about some recent articles that came out trying to predict how many work from home workers will basically remain working from home moving forward. And some statistics say between 20 and 40% businesses will see this as an opportunity. And for someone that reads this news about NetApp, they may think, oh, well, they've done this to position themselves for that. But as you and I both know, Rich, these acquisitions don't just happen in a matter of weeks. It's months in the planning and maybe years in the strategizing to make something like this happen. No doubt completing the acquisition can go pretty quickly, but it's not something you just come up with in 30 days and make happen. So, this is kind of long tail, strategy for NetApp. And I think, they're probably betting on the right horse. I think that if things play out the way we think they will, and the analysts think, this will become more of a norm than not as a direct result of the coronavirus, right? What finally forced you to transition to a remote workforce? Was it X, Y? No, it was coronavirus. That's what finally forced us to. So yeah, this is probably good future strategy on the part of NetApp for sure.
Yeah, and you mentioned Satya Nadella before. Microsoft reported its latest quarterly numbers yesterday, and at one point in the briefing on that, he said that there's been 2 years worth of digital transformation in the last 2 months, and that's a perfect example of that. Let's take a look at your tip of the week. It's an interesting one. Lots of people watching this have been through the process of helping small companies that really can't possibly deal with the adjustment to work from home themselves, make that adjustment and get their employees up and running. But this is something that you're thinking MSPs can help larger companies with too.
Yes, I'm going to be bold and say now is the time to approach larger organizations, mid-market and enterprise organizations that may have not been very friendly to MSPs helping out with internal IT, things like that. Traditionally, Rich, we're seen as potential competition for internal IT, or not carrying a high enough level of acumen and trust to be able to manage large parts of the infrastructure, or manage vendors specifically. Like, what CTO is going to let an MSP manage their vendor relationships in a Fortune 500 or 1,000 organization, right? But things has changed recently, Rich. Things has changed. I'm going to call it the MSP role reversal. Now, our value proposition before was, hey, we're going to give you peace of mind. We're going to manage your infrastructure. We're going to manage everything. And so we were seen as kind of a threat of maybe only had opportunities in the mid and enterprise markets if we were very, very specialized and held that, secret sauce of, the old, IBM mainframe down in the basement or something, right? Things like that. But to have a larger responsibility was daunting and difficult and challenging in those scenarios. Well, today, guess what? A lot of these mid and enterprise companies may not have the expertise and acumen and the platforms and the processes and procedures to manage large remote workforces or work from home staff now. And they're getting inundated and overwhelmed with just the noise of doing all this and setting them up and then providing ongoing management and maintenance and security for these disparate, workforces that may be using company equipment at home. They may be using BYOD. They may be using the family, desktop that the kids do their homework on and stuff like that. So how do you manage that? How do you segregate profiles? How do you, best practices keep corporate data corporate and personal data personal? They may not have that experience. So now is the time to go out and ask for that business and ask your existing clients for referrals. You've done a great job of setting them up. I made a point on a webinar earlier today. I said, you're probably doing yourself, your customer, and their colleagues a disservice by not asking them if they know anyone that needs help with transitioning to remote workforce and managing and securing those remote workforces. I mean, Rich, as human beings, if we have a great, vendor that does something great for us personally, like on our house or something, we tell people about it, right? Because we want to help people. Why are we keeping our customers from doing the same thing, right? So I think there's an opportunity now to role reverse and attack these mid and enterprise organizations or internal IT and say, hey, we have the expertise. Let us manage the noise and challenge of all this and allow you guys to really focus on continuing to operate and grow the business during these uncertain times.
It's interesting because there's been a lot of talk in the industry, I'll say over the last year, and I'm sure there are people who have been doing this much longer than that, but I certainly have been coming more and more often in the last year across this idea of the co-managed IT model, where you're working with, say, a mid-sized business that has an internal IT department. There are a number of different models for how you can potentially deliver that. The objection that often comes up when you raise this as a possibility with an MSP is just this idea that, well, they'll never go for that because they're going to regard me as a threat, and managing that issue can be very sensitive. But you're absolutely right. All of a sudden, this is a situation where you might not feel like a threat to some of those companies right now. They might actually understand finally what it is that you can do that they don't necessarily know how to do as well, don't necessarily want to do. They could actually view you as a partner now. And the other thing I would just say is, in the midst of a recession like this, an economic and a public health crisis like this, very difficult times for everybody, but it's the companies that are willing to think differently a little bit, look for new opportunities, look for creative things that they can do that are maybe opportunities now and weren't a few months ago, that are really going to be best positioned to make it through this period and grow the business and prosper. And this is a perfect example of that. If you weren't necessarily interested in co-managed IT, you weren't really thinking about selling into larger organizations before, being open to that, understanding that that's an opportunity, a bigger potential market for you now than it was even a few months ago, is something that could really help your business from a long-term standpoint.
I really think that it can provide these organizations almost a lifeline. I mean, like I said, their internal IT department is scrambling to figure out how to do all this stuff if they haven't done it before. And dealing with all of the complexities of that could really be seen as kind of that lifeline. And again, kind of like we talked about in our lead story, what finally caused you to look at co-managed IT? Was it strategy? No, it was coronavirus. So take advantage now.
Well, that leaves us time for just one more story this week. And it's one you may have seen before. I've noticed it's been popping up quite a bit in the media. It's kind of an irresistible topic. Many of us, we are sheltering at home, staying at home. We're doing our best to protect our neighbors and our families and our friends and ourselves by doing the right thing. But now and again, you may find yourself feeling just a little bit helpless, wanting to have more of an impact, wanting to do more to help, but looking for that way to do that, right? And they've come up with a very interesting one that I would actually, volunteer for if it was something that was relevant here in the U.S. as well. Turns out in Belgium is the world's largest exporter of fries and other frozen potato products. So, I mean, that's an important part of the economy here. And demand for frozen fries, the Belgians say, has dropped by more than 40% due to the coronavirus right now. And so there's a lot of potatoes in Belgium that aren't being eaten. And at a time when the economy is suffering and people are out of work, you hate to see food go to waste. So Belgapom, which is an industry group that I guess represents farmers in Belgium, including potato farmers, is strongly encouraging the Belgian people as a sort of patriotic act to eat an extra portion of French fries per week. Apparently Belgians on average eat at least an order of fries a week as it is now. But hey folks, double that, do your duty, help out your neighbors, eat more fries. You know what, I can help out too.
Yeah, I did my share for the American French fry industry yesterday. So I had my weekly order of fries yesterday. But maybe Belgium should look at other opportunities to create other derivatives from the potato, maybe some alcoholic derivatives, as it were, and maybe open up some more revenue streams as well.
Interesting thought. Interesting. You know what? Fries are good, but if you can make hand sanitizer out of those potatoes, you're going to clean up, as it were.
Yeah, I was thinking more like vodka, but okay.
It's all good. Well, that is all the time we've got this week on the 5-Minute Roundup. Thank you so much for joining us. If you like the show, you might like to take a look at some older episodes. You want to know about the new ones when they come out. Thing to do is go to the ChannelPro Network channel on YouTube and subscribe to that. You can see all of our shows. If you click the little bell icon, you'll get notifications when the new ones become available. To read more about NetApp buying CloudJumper, to get all sorts of great business growth strategy, business industry news that you can benefit from in running your company, your destination should be channelpronetwork.com. We have got awesome new content for you going up every day. To learn more about Eric and the work that he does with his clients, please go to ericksimpson.com. That is ERICK Simpson.com. We will be back again with you with another episode of the 5-Minute Roundup in a week. Until then, folks, please enjoy the rest of your week. Eric and I are enjoying the rest of your week already.